Garrett Crochet was the name, but now there's been linked reports, and whether it's how truthful those reports are going to be, but Skubal is the name right now that is hot. And the biggest part is then for prospects. And right now, no team would be more equipped than the Baltimore Orioles to go out and get a guy. But in your mind, can you just walk through then how this would be approached here? Because it seems like the Tigers, if they're going to make a move, they're going to need a king's ransom.
Well, they are. And, that's why I'm a little skeptical that Skubal is actually going to be available. But, if you're the Tigers and you have that, that asset, see, part of their plan is they're trying to show improvement this year, which they have, and they're trying to, I think, finish strong. They're trying to be able to compete within the division, the next year, and kind of, they've been a doormat really for the last couple of years there. So, that's part of this equation. If you are going to trade a guy like Skubal, first off, you better get multiple pieces that can help your major league club. And secondly, it's got to be in line with some of the more recent trades. I'll go back to Dylan Cease, who was with the Padres, the Padres traded for even this spring training. Had 2 years left of control for him, and they got 5 prospects. I think one that was a top 50 prospect, but the rest were below that. And so you use that as a guideline if you're the Tigers, and you just basically set a bar. Here's what we'll accept. We're going to accept. It's going to have to be, it's going to have to be a Holiday, Basayo, Mayo. One of those guys has to headline this deal. Otherwise, you can't even talk to them. So if the Orioles aren't willing to put one of those guys into the mix right away, forget the conversation. You're the Tigers GM. You hang up the phone, you talk to somebody else and see what they're willing to offer. And then you build a package based off of that. You have to kind of decide. The Orioles have plenty of those top, 100 prospects in the sport. Their top 5 are better than most teams' number 1s or number 2s. So, you can deal from a position of strength. And you look at Skubal, you go, wow, that's a guy that can take me to the World Series, not just this year, but next year, the year after. Like, he's a guy that could take you to where you want to go. So, that to me are kind of the considerations on both sides.
So in this case then, though, and I agree, if there's a guy that you're like, for sure, all-star caliber, I can't let him go. If Skubal's available here, would you be willing to trade one of those other guys like Basayo or Mayo? Do you think that would – and I'm very bullish on both those guys. Right. But if he truly is available here and that changes it for 24, would that be something you'd be willing to do?
It would, and I would clarify and say the one guy, and I love the kid. I love Basayo. I love the youth. But he's the one guy, because you have Adley, number 1. Number 2, the way catchers are used these days, in terms of the workload, they're not catching 140, 150 games. Very rarely, right? Even Adley isn't catching, for the most part, that many games. He's DHing the other ones. Right. And so if you're going to plan on using Basayo in that role, well, what are you going to do with Adley? Unless you plan on moving Adley to first full-time first base, which to me hurts his value a little bit, unless he's a 35 homer guy at first base, which he could be. But his huge value is the way he does everything well as a catcher. Hits for power, catches, fields, workload, the way he works with his pitchers, his preparation, all those things that kind of factor in with a good catcher. And Basayo is almost like a duplication for me for the O's. And so if I were to choose one guy as the guy that you would go ahead and earmark as the main portion of that trade, it would be him. And if I could keep Mayo, and that's kind of how I would distinguish it. And then Mayo I think has a future fit for the team, impactful, might even be this year. Towards the end of or after August. If there's an injury too. So that's how I would kind of view it in my mind.
It's going to be. This is the tough part of it, and this is why, look, I'm thankful I'm not having to do any GM decisions.